In 2012, 8 American soldiers supposedly vanished while trying to dig up a 5,000-year-old flying machine in Afghanistan. The energy field around it was so dangerous that Obama, Merkel, and Sarkozy all personally flew to Kabul to stare at it. Yeah, the internet really believed that. And honestly, part of me wishes it was true, because that timeline sounds way more interesting than ours. So look, did ancient people have aircraft? Were the gods just extraterrestrials with really good PR? Or is this another case of the internet turning a cool bedtime story into a full-blown government cover-up? Today, we're digging into 3 things. 1. What actually happened in Afghanistan in 2012? Spoiler, it's disappointing. 2. What ancient Hindu texts say about flying machines called vimanas, and why they sound suspiciously like sci-fi. And 3. The evidence, or, the complete lack of evidence. Because if this is real, we need to rewrite every history textbook ever written. And if it's fake, well, we probably should talk about why millions of people wanted it to be true.
Okay, first, let's establish what we're even talking about. Vimanas aren't some niche Reddit rabbit hole. They show up constantly in ancient Hindu, Jain, and Sanskrit texts like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. We're talking scriptures that are literally thousands of years old. And these aren't vague references to magic sky chariots. No. We get details. Cabins, wheels, directional controls, interplanetary travel. Stuff that sounds less like mythology and more like, a Boeing 747 instruction manual written by someone on shrooms. You can find vimanas carved into temple walls, illustrated in ancient manuscripts. They're everywhere in South Asian culture. So here's the thing. Nobody's debating whether vimanas exist in stories. They obviously do. The question is, did they ever exist in real life? Let's find out, and try not to go full ancient aliens while we do. All right, let's start with the story that broke everyone's brain in 2012. According to the rumor, U.S. Special Forces were poking around in some cave in Afghanistan, because apparently that's where we find all our best stuff, and they stumbled on a vimana, an actual, physical, 5,000-year-old flying machine. Cool, right? Except when they tried to move it, it activated some kind of time vortex energy field situation, and 8 soldiers straight up disappeared. Gone. Thanos snapped out of existence. And then, and this is where it gets truly unhinged, President Obama, Francis Sarkozy, and Germany's Merkel all rushed to Kabul within days to personally inspect this ancient UFO. Now, if you're thinking, that sounds like a deleted scene from Indiana Jones written by someone who's never seen a government work, you're not wrong.
But here's the kicker. Those world leaders, they did visit Afghanistan around that time, which is why people bought into this so hard. But the reason they went, yeah, we'll get to that. So, what actually happened? Obama, Merkel, and Sarkozy did visit Afghanistan in 2012. That part's true. But, and I hate to ruin the fun here, they were routine political visits. Troop morale, press ops, boring diplomatic stuff. All publicly documented. Zero secrecy. No ancient alien tech involved. And the 8 missing soldiers? No names, no incident reports, no military records, no anything. The whole story traces back to one random blog post. No sources, no photos, no whistleblowers coming forward 10 years later on their deathbed. It was a hoax. A good one, sure, but a hoax. And yet, millions of people shared it, which tells you something kind of sad and kind of beautiful. We desperately want this stuff to be real. We want to believe the universe is weirder than it looks, even if it means trusting a blog with a skeleton GIF as its header.
Okay, fine. The Afghanistan thing was fake. We've established that. But what about the original sources? The ancient texts themselves? Because listen, Hindu scriptures don't just mention vimanas in passing. They go hard on the details. The Ramayana describes Ravana's Pushpaka Vimana as this massive flying palace that could travel anywhere at the speed of thought. Not light. Thought. Which, if we're being honest, sounds like the kind of flex you make when you don't have to worry about FAA regulations. The Mahabharata talks about aerial dogfights, weapons that wipe out entire armies in blinding light, and craft that hop between planets like it's a subway system. And some of these descriptions are uncomfortably specific. Alloys, propulsion systems, pilot training. It's like someone in 3000 BCE wrote a YouTube tutorial on how to build a spaceship, no clickbait. Which brings us to the most controversial book in this whole mess. A text that claimed to be an actual ancient engineering manual for Vimanas, complete with blueprints. For decades, people thought it was legit, until scientists actually tried to fact-check it, and, yeah. The book's called the Vimanika Shastra. It popped up in the early 1900s and it had everything. Detailed alloy compositions, mercury-based engines, we'll come back to mercury because it shows up a lot. Pilot training protocols, actual diagrams of flying machines. People lost their minds. Finally, proof that ancient India had airplanes. Except, no. Researchers from the Indian Institute of Science tore it apart and found it was written in the 1900s, not ancient times. The guy who wrote it was a mystic who claimed he psychically channeled it from ancient sages, which is a wild excuse for plagiarism. And this is the best part, the aircraft designs were aerodynamically impossible. As in, if you built one, it would immediately crash and possibly explode. So the most detailed Vimana text we have is basically ancient fan fiction written by a guy who really wanted to believe. That said, just because this text is bogus doesn't mean all the ancient references are. It just means we can't trust random books that show up with no provenance and a lot of confidence.